maybe for those that aren't familiar with multiple checklists for Jira, I should just show you how it looks like and what you can achieve with multiple checklists for Jira. And so I have a special project for this Apptoberfest meeting, and I have a regular Jira issue, as you can see. As soon as you install multiple checklists for Jira on your instance, the checklists will be available in your Jira issue by default. And on Jira Cloud, you can see this button here, which is called multiple checklists. So we have our checklist here. The default checklist is called to do, and we can freely write new checklist items here. So since we want to be Apptoberfest themed, let's name it Apptoberfest celebrations. And what you can do during Apptoberfest celebrations, I certainly want to drink some beer since it's Apptoberfest. We could as well be attending some app crawl events. We could be getting some discounts on apps. And so with our checklists in the Jira issue, we can easily create a new checklist. We can add new items there. And if we want to, we can continue and create as many checklists in one issue as we want to. What's more, if we wanted to use that checklist, the same checklist in the future, in any of the Jira issues that we create later on, we can go ahead and save that checklist as a template. I can choose to save that checklist both as a project template and as a global template. In case I decide to save it as a project template, this template will only be available in this specific project. And if I save it as a global template, it will be available in all of the projects on this Jira instance. So I'm going to save that as a project template. And if I decide to add a checklist from template later on, you can see that the Apptoberfest celebrations checklist is available here for addition. What's more, I can set statuses for my checklist items. So I can set drink some beer as in progress. And since drink some beer is already in progress, I'm just going to take a sip. In case my boss is watching this, that's non-alcoholic beer. So no worries. And we can set any status for this checklist that we wish to. What's more, we can even configure statuses that are available here. So they come predefined, but you can modify them. So that's how multiple checklists for Jira look like. That's not all of the features that exist there. We would spend many more time here showing everything, but it should give you a general overview of what you can achieve, how it looks like, and how to use them in your Jira projects. And having shown that, I suppose we can move to the next topic, for this webinar, which is supposed to talk about some of the most desired features that we are considering for multiple checklists for Jira. We'll also be very happy to hear from you whether there is anything from this list that we have prepared that sounds good to you and that you would like to have in the app. Or maybe you have some of your own ideas that we didn't cover here and that you would like to bring to our attention. We will be happy to hear them as well. And the first of that features that we are strongly considering is the ability to mention users directly in the checklist items. And such mentions, such assignments would work kind of the same as they work for Jira comments, for example, or for Confluence comments. So by typing the @ sign, you would be shown a list of users that are assignable in your current project. You would be able to select a user, and it would show up as a user mentioned directly in the checklist item. That way you could point who is responsible for taking care of such checklist item. And in the future, we are also considering expanding this with some notification capabilities. So in case you decide to mention someone, that person would receive an email notification, same as it's done for any other mentions on the Jira instance. So Eva, we run another poll.
Yes, and here I'm starting to share the results. And as I can see, most of you want to have this mention feature. And only 60% of you would like to have a user assigned in a checklist item in a template. 20% of you wouldn't like it at all, and another 20% who doesn't know if there is a use for using for mentioning a user in a checklist template. And most of you as well, because 80% would use it once or a few times per week, so it's often, and only one person would use it once per month. So as we can see, there is a lot of potential with using this feature, and maybe.
And if you have some thoughts, we can come back to them. And in the meanwhile, I will tell you about another feature that we are strongly considering. And that feature is more advanced support for JQL. So JQL is often used by Jira users, Jira administrators for easily finding Jira issues that are matching some search criteria. With JQL, you can pretty much search for any issues that you wish to. And what we are considering is to adding the ability to search issues based on the status of the checklists. So, for example, you could look for all of the issues that have all of the checklists completed. So you would type it in your JQL query. You could do it together with any other criteria that you have. So for example, a project, a status of that Jira issue, and you could also as well put there some checklists related JQL, and you would receive a list of all of the issues matching that JQL criteria and the new criteria for all of the checklists completed. Or on the other hand, maybe all of the issues that don't have the checklists completed yet for some reason. So of course, looking for all of the Jira issues that have all of the checklist items completed is just one of the use cases that we could support. We are definitely looking forward for anything else that you would like to use and search for using JQL. It could be searching for a specific item on that checklist. It could be looking for a specific checklist name that exists or not in the Jira issue. It could be also considering the statuses or mentions that were mentioned in the previous point. There are really a lot of use cases that we could be implementing here to support the JQL. And do we have the poll results yet?
Sure. I see that not everybody participated yet, but if you don't have any opinion or don't want to adapt, then it's completely fine as well. And so I will share the poll results. And so most of you that participated admitted that you would use the JQL search options. And from what I can see, the most used JQL would possibly be to find checklists with all issues done, or to search for issues that have in progress status items. And the very least, even none of you would look for the items assigned to a specific users, and wouldn't also search for issues with specific text in checklist item, and as well find issues with specific checklist title assigned. Like Apptoberfest to-do list, sorry. And if you have any other ideas or something that you wished already when you used our checklist to search for, then let us know. I'm very curious to hear about your experience with our checklists. And if you happen to have any situation that you find yourself looking for a checklist through JQL and or wishing to look for a checklist with JQL, contrarily to the results of this poll, I personally would look for the issues that have checklists with items assigned to me, because I would be needing possibly to find out what I am expected to do. But I guess you just thought about just having in progress status or without items done for that use. And so if nobody has anything to add or no wishes to have in JQL for checklist, then we can move, of course, forward.
Okay, so one more feature that we are considering is enhanced permission management for the checklists. So, for example, we would be able to define what specific users or what specific groups of users could view the checklists or edit checklists or delete checklists within Jira issue in a certain project. So we have heard that some of our customers are looking forward for this, just so that they have bigger control over what's happening in the ticket. Maybe they would only want to see some of the users modify the checklist that is added automatically to the issues, such as the definition of done. We likely wouldn't want anyone to edit it or even completely remove it. We would have to want to have more control over that. So with those permission management capabilities, we would be able to specify who is able to do what actions within checklists or even checklist templates. And so I wonder if there is anything concerning the permission management that you would want to have, that you think is a priority for you. And if so, in which areas would you want to use those permissions?
All right. And as I can see, and now can you as well, most of you can imagine that it is troublesome when everybody can edit a checklist, and it might raise some kind of a problem or an issue. And it's mixed about if you ever been bothered about Jira admin being the only one person that can edit global checklists. So that's interesting to see, because we are receiving also mixed feedbacks in our daily work, daily communication with customers. It's something that this feature about adding permission could fix to enable more users to edit global checklists and not to bottleneck it to only Jira admin. And I'm curious and I'm wondering if anybody would like to have anything else. So feel free to speak up and let us know. I would move on to the discussion that might be the most interesting to you. If you have anything to share, maybe it's not in the scope of our features that we have already presented here, but maybe it's something else that we should, in your opinion, upgrade in the upcoming days. And so I would like to share with you one moment, please. I will steal the permissions from Sebastian. And if you have anything, any question or any idea or any need that currently our checklists are not doing for you, I will be happy to hear about it and write to us, and we'll just together brainstorm what we could add to checklist for you. And let us know in the poll that I already shared, which features would be the most promising from the ones we already showed you. All right. Is there anything that made you upset with checklist? Maybe there was a day that you wanted to do something particular, but you couldn't, and share with us happily.
And so based on the poll results that I'm seeing coming live, it seems that the most voted feature currently is the support for JQL. That's definitely great to hear. And as I mentioned, with support for jQuery, there is really a variety of different use cases that we could be supporting. So we could be supporting looking for issues with completed checklist items, with issues that don't have any checklist items or that have incomplete checklist items. We could be looking for specific titles of the checklist or for specific items or for statuses. It would be great to hear if there are any use cases that you would particularly want to see implemented into jQuery support. And you can let us know on the chat about that. One of such features that Eva mentioned is the ability to search for checklist items assigned to her. And that's definitely one great use case, but I wonder if there are more.
And of course, as it is brainstorm, and you can even mention some areas that you would like to see improving. It doesn't have to be full formed on a use case and idea for a completely new feature. If there is anything popping into your mind, then feel free to share with us what you would like to see in our app, what you would like to use in our app in the future. As it is our goal to provide you with as much suited to your needs product as possible. So we are really keen on hearing your ideas, and not only here on a webinar, but anytime you would have any thought or any needs, feel free to write to us. I will be happy to help you with it, or to just write down your idea and look for ways how we can implement it with Sebastian.
Okay, and it looks like we don't have any immediate thoughts on this. So I could just jump to one question that we have. And we have a question from Fabian. He says that we use Smart Checklist plugin right now. What competitive advantages does multiple checklists have over it? And so when we initially designed multiple checklists, our goal was to, as just the name of the app says, give the ability to work on multiple checklists, which at the time, none of the checklists plugin was offering. I'm talking like about the complete support for having separate lists that you can manage separately. So you would be able to add and remove them separately. You would be able to configure your templates, such as there are certain lists that are added to one issue, other lists that are added to other issues, but it's not just a single checklist with items on it. Other than that, users are also saying that they choose us because they prefer our user interface. For some of them, it's easier than in other checklist items. And for some of them, because we are offering multiple checklists for all of the hosting types, that's also an advantage for them because some of the checklist plugins aren't available for all hosting options. And we have another question from Fabian. Are you able to enable the plugin per project? And the answer is yes, you can do that. You can enable the plugin per project, and what's more, you can enable it for specific issue types in this project. So you can say that you want to see checklists in this project, but only in tasks and bugs, for example, but not in stories. So another question that came is, are we supporting data center? And yes, as I mentioned, multiple checklists are available for all hosting options, including data center. So you can get multiple checklists for Jira Data Center as well.
All right, thank you for your questions and keep them coming if you have anything on your mind. We'll be happy to use this opportunity to simply answer whatever you may need about checklists. All right, and we have another question about if we allow the checklist app to function not only in Jira, but also on the public portal linked to a Jira project.
Okay, so I think we have the first thing to jot down on our whiteboard concerning proposed features. Yeah, we have heard from the customers so far about this. So it is on our roadmap. So it's good to hear that that there is some interest in this. We are considering it, but we don't have that scheduled for any specific time frame just yet. And if this is a feature that you are interested in, you can let us know if you haven't yet via our service desk, service portal. We will notify you as soon as anything changes about this feature request. So once it's scheduled for development, once we know when you can expect it, so simply let us know on service desk and we will stay in touch.
All right, so we have another question from Fabian. Thank you for those questions, Fabian. And there is a question about if we have any reporting capabilities in gadgets or dashboard for our checklists.
No, we don't currently have such reporting capabilities, but I would definitely be happy to hear more about what that capabilities would be. So what exactly we would want to report on. I suppose that maybe it could be about the number of Jira issues that have completed versus incomplete checklist items. But yeah, I think that's another great idea. So I would be very happy to learn more about it.
Oh, all right. So it would be the far future because as we can see, Fabian is adding more to his question in the chat, that with reporting checklist will be coming with jQuery feature. So that's a great idea because there might be some kind of a use to just have maybe the amount of items assigned to me, the amount of items assigned to Sebastian for some reporting. That's great.
Yes, and with jQuery, we could be achieving a little bit of that reporting because we could simply be creating a dashboard gadget that is showing us specific issues. And if we had support for JQL, we could be generating lists of issues on that dashboard and naming them. Here are your issues that are done, but they don't have all of the checklist items completed. So maybe it's worth reviewing them. So yeah, that's definitely a great idea.
Okay, and another question. Workflow validator allow blocking progress only on specific checklist not completed. Currently, it allows only blocking progress if all items are not completed in all checklists. Okay, I think that would be another great idea, and I'm putting it already on our whiteboard. What do you think, Sebastian?
Yeah, that's another great feature, and I'm happy to say that we will attempt to have that released still this year. So we have that on our roadmap, and we have that scheduled. And hopefully, if nothing goes wrong, we will be able to announce that the workflow validation is extended to specific checklists and not to all of the checklists in Jira issues. So great idea. We think that's a great idea too, and that's why we have scheduled that for development.
All right, as you can hear, there are no bad ideas, so keep them coming. We'll be happy to hear them all, and I will be happy to play with the whiteboard pencil and put them on our brainstorm whiteboard. All right, are there any other thoughts that you would like to share or talk about? If not, we could move on and show you a few more use cases of the checklists. So if anybody has anything to share, then please raise your hand or type it in. Otherwise, we can use our time to share with you a few more tricks about how to use checklists, how you can use checklists, and maybe we all will learn something from it. All right. Sebastian, would you like to tell us more about use cases for checklists?
Yeah, definitely. I can cover that a little bit. Okay, let's see how you can use checklists. One of the most common use cases that I have in my projects is for tracking the definition of done. So we have a checklist that covers the most crucial parts of our definition of done. And we have our team members check them off as they are done. So, you know, if there is a manual test done and it's passing, we are checking that on our list. If there is a code review done, we are checking that on our list. And so we have that lists that contain points from our definition of done. And we add them to new issues in our project. Of course, we can configure a different definition of done for each of the projects that we have, because usually projects have and develop their own definition of done. Similar to the definition of done, you can have a definition of ready. So you can specify what criteria need to be met in order for the ticket to be ready for development. So for example, you could add that it must have a user story, it must have acceptance criteria, and so on, whatever you think is necessary in that issue for the developers to take that ticket and work on it. So it's more of a help for product owners, product managers in your projects. I have also seen and heard that checklists are used as a help for service desk agents. So if they are receiving questions concerning the product, or they are receiving bug reports, such checklist can help them ask the right questions. So it could be helping to show what we should be asking the customer in case they are reporting a problem. So like ask them about their browser, their operating system, what were the steps that they took, have they provided the reproduction steps. We can have all of that on our checklist and make sure that either the customer provides it, or that whoever is taking care of that request gets that information from the customer. And in case of common support questions, we can also have a checklist that covers such information. So it directs such agent in order to help solve the problem of a customer. You can also embed links in the checklist items. So sometimes it's easy to go to the documentation that explains some complex parts of your application. So that's another use case that I have seen and heard checklists are used in. What's more, I have seen the checklist being used for releasing components, releasing the application, releasing the components of an application. So there is often a predefined process that you need to follow. There are certain tasks that you need to do, and it's better if you don't forget about them. For example, about updating the documentation for that release, providing the release notes, running the regression tests. There is usually quite a lot to do there. So such checklist is also a help when you want to release something. I think those are the most common ones that I have seen, and I saw checklists working great there.
And maybe you would like to tell us how most often do you use checklists? Is it just repeating templates that are always added automatically to some of your projects, like acceptance criteria, or maybe you just use them each time you create a new task? All right, thank you, Pavel. You're using them most often to break down an issue into smaller items. It's a great way of using a checklist. I'm doing that myself as well. It helps to look at the task not as a huge challenge, but to minimize a bit the workload and see it more clearly. Right, perhaps Sebastian, you would like to maybe show us something else, something more. Otherwise, we'll be wrapping up this session.
So I suppose I could show you how you can track definition of done in your projects using multiple checklists for Jira. And let me steal the screen sharing again. Okay, so let's get back to our project. Let's create a new user story, Apptoberfest celebrations. And we would want to have a definition of done for this Jira issue. So let's name it Apptoberfest definition of done. I'm not going to be creative here, but during Apptoberfest, you definitely cannot consider it done unless you drink some beer, attend some webinars, attend happy hours, and participate in demo competition. So let's say that this is a definition of done for my project, and I would like to verify it as part of another Jira issue, or really all of the other Jira issues. So I should save that checklist as a template, and I will name it Apptoberfest definition of done. Okay, and that's great. We have saved checklist as a template. We can see that if we want to add checklists from templates, it is available here. But of course, that's not the best. We don't really want to go ahead and keep adding this checklist again and again to each Jira issue that we create. We would want to automate it somehow so that this definition of done is available in all of the Jira issues that we create. And we can achieve that. In order to do so, I am going to the Manage Templates screen. And I am taking a look at the Apptoberfest definition of done template that I have saved previously. So here from the Manage Templates, I can choose to add automation for this template. And since it's a project template, I can only automate it in the Apptoberfest project, in the project that this template belongs to. And I can decide which issue types they will be added to automatically. I'm choosing all of them. I want all of my Jira issues to have the definition of done template. So I'm choosing all of them, and I am clicking automate. So now when I get back to my project and I create another user story, so Apptoberfest celebrations, try to. And I go to that project. You can see that the Apptoberfest definition of done checklist is already added there. I didn't have to do that manually. I just created a new Jira issue, and that checklist is already available here. What's more, we wouldn't want to move that issue to done unless we complete all of the checklist items. So we don't want to say that something is done unless it really meets all of our criteria on the definition of done checklist. And so we can do that as well by going to the project settings, to the workflows, and we can edit our workflow from here. So that's a diagram that is representing our current workflow, which is pretty simple. We can move issues to do, done, or in progress. And we are going to modify the transition to done. we are selecting the validators, and we are adding a new validator here. And on that list of all of the available validators for this project, we are seeing that there is one that is called all checklist items are checked. And that validator requires that all of the checklist items in this issue are checked before we can transition the issue to this status. So we are adding it. And we see that in this workflow, there is now a validator for the transition to done. That will forbid us to move the issue unless the checklists are completed. So the last step here is to publish the draft that we were editing. We don't want to save a backup copy because we are pretty sure that our workflow is working as expected. But if you are working on your production instance, you probably want to do that backup. Okay, so the workflow is now published. The workflow is now in place. So we can get back to our Jira issue that has the definition of done. We are checking one item and attempting to move that to done, but oops, we can't do that. The transition has failed because this issue has checklist items that has not yet been completed. So before we move that issue to done, we have to check all of the items on the Apptoberfest definition of done. And now that our checklist is completed, we can attempt to move the issue again. And now it has worked perfectly fine because our definition of done is completed. So that's how you can, in just a few very simple steps, configure definition of done using multiple checklists for Jira and enhance tracking of that definition of done in your projects.
So there are no shortcuts here. Everything must be ticked off and done before you can just swipe away the Jira issue.
That's right.
All right. Thank you, Fabian. We do think that it is a great feature to restrict others from moving the ticket to a done status before having everything actually checked off. And I would like to thank you all for attending our webinar. We are very happy to have heard all of your ideas, all of your questions, and to simply meet you, even though it's virtually. It's always nice to hear from our users or from other Jira users about our app or other apps, or simply what it's needed. And of course, what I have mentioned before in our webinar, also, please remember that a conversation with us doesn't limit to a webinar on Apptoberfest. Any issue, any idea, anything you would like to talk about our apps, we are always available for you, and I will be happy to talk with you through our support channels. You can find it on Jira Marketplace, the links to our service desk and to our email to just contact us with anything that you would need help with checklists.
Yes, thanks everyone. Cheers and happy Apptoberfest. Cheers.